Well, welcome everyone. We're glad you stuck around to the last part of the day to hear this esteemed panel. We're very excited to be able to come to you today to talk about, from our crystal ball lens, of what 2030 should look like and really how you should be responding to some of the needs that we're going to be looking at moving forward from 2030. We have a really dynamic panel. We have two of our leading tier ones here, and of course one of our leading OEMs as well. They're going to be here really talking about, from their perspective, some of the things that they're seeing. But really want to share really a little story that I had the privilege, and I know I mentioned to our panelists a couple weeks ago. I actually was in San Antonio for a conference, and on that panel, I had an opportunity to spend some time with the general director for BYD. And I think that this is really important because the night before at dinner, someone asked the question to him was BYD doing any ICE? And his response was, no, we're full EV. And so people started talking about they own hybrids, and I own one myself. And so we started talking about the fuel range that we have in our hybrid and how confident we are as we make the transition one day to be fully EV. And so the next day when he presented, he mentioned the conversation that we had the night before, and he mentioned everyone's utilization of a hybrid and getting about 575 miles to a tank of gas. And so one of the things he brought to everyone's attention was that most of the BYD vehicles today have a 1,000-kilometer range with a 10-minute charge time. But then he said something else that really struck everybody's attention. He said that the new vehicles that they're going to be releasing later this year will have a 2,000-kilometer range with about the same charge time. So the reality is, as our OEMs in North America and Mexico, as we're talking about right now collaboration and competitive advantage, the gap is getting wider when it comes to what the Chinese manufacturers are doing today. And so as a supplier to the OEMs and to the large tiers, they are going to be depending on you to bring, again, solutions to the table. The reality is no one is going to have all the right answers. And at the pace that this industry is going to make all of us work in moving forward, there is going to be a strong need for collaboration with that. And so one of the things, what I want to do at this point in time is I want to ask my esteemed panelists to just tell you who they are, who they're with, and what they do at their respective organizations. We're going to start first with Paulina.
Oh, nice to meet everyone. I'm coming from Harman. Now my role is Senior Supply Chain Manager with 20 years experience in all the environments, pharmaceutical, consultant, automotive, distribution centers. And well, it's an honor and pleasure to stay with everyone here. Thank you for coming.
Hello. Nice to be here. My name is Brenda Pinedo. So I'm coming from Aumovio, before Continental Automotive. Recently, we have a rebranding process. So I am SQM, Supplier Quality Manager, working in the supplier development from North America and also leading the SQM's competence recently because that's something key as a strategy. So we are very happy to be here to share what is the innovative things that we are having on the market. We are mobility, we are technology because we really like the technology in the cars. So all the efforts and the supply chain all together is working to get all those new features that we enjoy every day when we are driving a car for safety and something environmental as well. So thank you very much for this invitation, and let's continue.
Okay, thank you. My name is Miguel Ahuactzin. I represent Nissan Mexicana, the OEM. Uh, I have some experience for the electronic development. Now I'm senior manager for the quality supplier and exportation of the supplier chain. I'm enjoying to be here. Thank you.
Well, that sounds good. So we're going to jump right into it, and what we really want to do is we want to really talk about, what are some of the single most important shifts that your company should be looking to do, and to really understand over the next 5 years. So with that, my first question to all of my panelists is just that. From Paulina, I'm going to start with you. From your perspective, what is the single most important shift suppliers must understand for the next 5 years?
Well, it's a very good question. All suppliers should consider collaboration in every single way and reverse way, because sometimes we are receiving feedback each other from the OEMs to the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers, but there is not like a data transparency that allow to us to take decision faster. How we are going to make sure that this collaboration pays off. In our supply chain resilience after pandemic ends, I think that most of the suppliers become reactive, trying to challenge themselves to find alternatives outside of the company, but not inside. Having alternative production way due to the geopolitical risk or some automation process that can help us to become more competitive in our pricing. So it's a key fact that we should learn and stay focused to have a real collaboration, not only with our process, with our people, to engage each other, to have a focus that all data matters, but matters when we know what we need to do to taking better decisions in short term.
Brenda, same question, and I really want you to. I heard Paulina said data transparency and collaboration. Tell us a little bit more about just that data transparency and collaboration. So tell us a little bit more about that as well.
Yes, well, I would like to add, and in the next 5 years coming soon, we need to change the mindset of the supplier management. It means that not only to sending good parts to the OEMs, to the next customers, we are looking for preventive approach, risk management approach, and we are looking for that kind of data transparency, because if we have data on time, we can react immediately to taking better decisions, and for sure that we're going to ensure the customer satisfaction, but with real data. So that's something that the technology transition that we are living at the moment in the organizations, that's an expectation that we have from our suppliers. To have the zero defect approach also, but with a strong strategy and with strong teams with a high competence level. For that reason, we need to start building this kind of new knowledge in our teams and start developing those kind of technology tools that we need to use in our daily basis in the work. So that's the data transparency and systems in place that help us to take the better decisions. But please change the mindset. We are not just, we want to rely on very confident suppliers with the certification, for sure, the IATF, but also with this kind of data performance on time and helping us to take better solutions all together like partners, because we are all together the same team. And if we have a different approach like partners, not only a supplier and customer relationship, we can get more and more actions and plans efficiently and high productivity.
Same question to you, Miguel.
Okay, thank you. So for the next 5 years, starting 2026, a fundamental shift will be required for the supplier. So the first one is we need to evolve for the traditional view like OEM and supplier to transitional view like a strategic partner relationship. So we need to looking for the best way how we can introduce the supplier process and some sub-assemblies into the process vehicle assembly line, because we need to eliminate some not value-added factors like transportation, warehouse, or some overworking like that. So this is the fundamental for this. So we need to looking ahead that the several key challenge for this is the complete the regional ecosystem. We need to work on the diversification by region for the supplier process. The next one is the supply chain resilience. So we need how we can be resilient, even than drive our costs alone, and speed of response by the supplier, including the tier end supplier. So this is the next point that we need to monitorize because it's very important. How we can extend the scope for our standards for tier N. The tier N is the main contributor for the quality concerns or recalls for the customers, and we need to collaborate with them in order to standardize the tier N supplier, not only tier 1 supplier. So we need to work in the early integration for the co-development with some supplier and accelerate the AMPQP early involvement. So as Nissan, we have two initiatives for this. Regarding regionalization, I think that some supplier can err like we restructure organization for SME, Supplier Management Engineering. All areas involved for supplier change are only the one department now. So USA and Mexico will work in only one department with the Supplier Management Engineering that we need to looking for the best way to standardize and to communication for the supplier. The second one is very important and is, they call it is SSA, Smart Standardization Activity. So this is of course, the quality is not negotiable, but can be flexible. This is the new, can be flexible, the quality. Let me try to explain this with one example. It's a brief example. So we have one supplier, tier N supplier with some semiconductors, and this is supplier assembly the PCB board in another component. That component is assembling a module is assembling some cosmetic part, for example, a headlamp. The headlamp has some criteria of appearance, very strictly criteria appearance. We can reject some part with one dot or one little scratch that the customer cannot identify it. So we ship to scrap that part, and we now evaluate or we cannot visualize the future with the shortage for some semiconductors that it has that component. So for that reason, we're gonna work in the next 5 years with some supplier with SSA activity in order to be more flexible with the appearance criteria.
Great.
Well, Miguel, you brought up a good point. You said that quality, again, is not optional, but it will be flexible. So my question to you around that is particularly as you look at new suppliers. So what about cost? So as you are evaluating and looking at new suppliers, will cost be the number one differentiator that you're going to look at? Or will you prioritize something else outside of just the best cost?
Okay, Chris, it's a good question. Let me try to answer with my notes. No, basically, looking back 5 years ago, we could have a strategic, clear plan. We can estimate some macro trends, economic forecasts, and some market prediction. But today is very different. The world is highly disrupted. So now, basically, we are constantly facing new development challenges. For the most effective way is how we can be resilient and speed for answer. Okay? So we can to reinforce the flexibility for our standardization. Even though when we have a standard, we need to validate how we can flexible with the current condition that we have now. So Nissan has announced some months ago the recovery plan, how we can reach the resilience and more flexible and speed. This is the Re-Nissan. The Re-Nissan has 3 key drivers. The first one is the restructure of the fixed cost. What means this? Restructure of the fixed cost is we need to evaluate the current resources that we have available, and we need to keep doing the same, no extra cost. The second one is redefine the market product. We're going to explain the market product. The product development is very important. So for that reason, we need to most integrate the new technologies. The new technologies and AI. So now it's not only for the electrical vehicle. We need to offer an intelligent vehicle. And the third one is to reinforce the partnership. Is of course that we need to continue with the relation and collaboration. Now we are evaluating the co-investment and co-sharing. This is like sharing the capacity. But the main differentiator is the going forward, the resilient rather than the cost. This is the most differentiator. Just let me remark something. Nissan assembled the first electrical vehicle on 1947. The color of that vehicle was Tama. However, as I commented, now on this era is not only the electrical vehicle, it's intelligent vehicle and connection of the mobile and connection of the cloud. For that reason, we need to have the Nissan. This is a recovery plan, and our vision is mobility intelligent for the everyday life. This is our comment. Thank you.
Well, Brenda, my next question goes to you, and I want to piggyback off what Miguel just said. He said a couple things in his couple answers. Number one, he said that we're going to have to look at trying to maybe reduce some processes that maybe are not as effective. Also, there's a need for innovation, artificial intelligence. Both of you guys as Tier 1 mentioned that traceability, data traceability is very important. So we know that many companies are working with Katina X now, and that's beginning to build momentum around that data standardization and traceability as well. So, Brenda, my question to you is, when you look at quality, what are some of the expectations that, based on what you're hearing, that are going to evolve beyond the traditional standards that companies are employing today?
Very good question and point. As everybody knows, we are in a continuous evolution. We have the evolution in the kind of products that we are delivering to the market. So that it means that we also need to change our internal way to work. And that specific approach will be when we update our quality management systems. So we have our basic rules in our quality standards that everybody are already implemented because we live every day those kind of standards. However, we need to make sure that in that standards, instead of only make an approach of compliance, we need to have value added. So it means that we have the continuous improvement, we have the baseline for planning, how we are executing the processes needed, all the top management, the operational processes, the support processes, but additional to that, we need to make the proper verification and improvement. So now we expect from our suppliers and rely on them based on the experience, the lessons learned, what is working properly in safe cost, on time delivering, and also meeting the expectations of the spec, but also the functionality and warranty, because this kind of components are in the market for a long time. So we need to ensure also measures, dimensions, but also the functionality of the component. So that's basically what we are expecting, to be an active driver, to not only a passive supplier that is only following what I send because I'm the owner of the design of the specification, even though we are remarking maybe a special characteristic or something critical, but additional to that, we are expecting from the suppliers an active participation and say, I will add here an automatic inspection. So that will cover and ensure 100% compliance, 0 incidents, on time delivering. So that's expectation that we have, because in the past, we have the criteria from reactions. So, and I say thank you for all the commitment with quality, but that is not enough. We need to prevent mindset. That's something that we are requesting from our suppliers in this moment. And also adding more time for training. How can we achieve those kind of results with competence? Because people is leading the systems, people is leading the machine, is now with the new technology. So we need to study new way to work. So that's a different mindset, and maybe it's not easy, maybe the cultural approach, because we want to follow maybe the typical rules and say maybe it was working for me properly. But now is the time to have a new mindset, okay? And convert into a partner and have more business, more profits, and for sure more stability, because the safe launch concept is something that is needed when we start with a new supplier introduction, for example. So for my specific experience, based on my experience, I work with supplier development. That it means that if you're interested to participate into my project and you are not in the right level of competence, you have the opportunity to develop this kind of performance and then to get the project, okay? So this is maybe something that is public. We can check those requirements into the website and create an effective strategy to do it. But please change this mindset. Not only compliance, we need to go through value added to the OEMs, because we have here the final customers beside me. and we are very close. And something that I really like is that the way to plan the standards, the quality standards, we are in the same direction, because IATF, for example, in Aumovio, we have the general quality agreements. We are totally 100% aligned with this kind of requirements. So it's the same traceability, document control. So even we have the same number and structure. If you see the index, will be the same, and I follow the index from Nissan or from my OEMs. So this is a very harmonized situation that I really like too much. That's why I'm very standard approach. And that's something that is in a continuous evolution. But it's an invitation. Please feel free to visit the websites from the standards. There are a lot of information available, webinars, something that you, even for free, and sometimes we don't have that, we can consult those kind of activities. So that's what I really want to recommend, David. Chris.
Okay. Good point. But I'm going to ask a question both to you and Miguel, because I'm a small supplier and I'm here and I'm listening to what you're saying, and the requirements are going to increase. Quality is not optional, but it's flexible. I'm trying to navigate everything, and you say that cost is maybe not the most important thing, but I'm concerned with production maybe down a little bit and all these tariffs are increasing my costs. Can you recommend how I'm going to pay for all these things to make sure that I'm looking outside the traditional scope of quality to meet some of your needs? Any thought about that to them, of maybe how they can meet some of the needs of moving forward in the next 5 years while still trying to curtail their expenses and to respond to you in a timely fashion?
Well, this is a very important point to remark. I think that everything is based on cost, because we are here to create profits and value added into the company, right? So how can we achieve this kind of results? It's based on our methodologies internally, based on our quality management systems in a very high level. That's what I can recommend, to put more focus in this strategy at the very beginning of the year based on the previous data. And that's the way that we can be more assertive in the solutions or in the proposals with the new expectations from the market or from the customers. That's what I can really recommend to include. And also to transfer this into the supply chain, because we are all together connected, and transfer the same requirements that my OEM is asking me to have. I will transfer this specific to my suppliers. Chris, that's something that I think that we can mention as a highlight.
Good point. Paulina, my question to you, and I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of Brenda's response. So with that being said, right now we know that suppliers should be looking possibly at shared platforms. You've all mentioned data transparency. So with that, and still cost being an important factor, what, in your opinion, would you say true collaboration with suppliers, what does that really look like that will help drive some of the things that you're hearing from your colleagues?
Well, through collaboration in terms of quality is all the audit readiness. How we prepare to achieve and exceed the customer targets or the quality requirements. But into the supply chain, a true collaboration is how faster we are making sure that our forecasts become more accurate. If we are not having a good forecast accuracy, we don't know to where our customer and our supply chain in terms of the tier 1, tier 2, and the tier 3 gonna move? How are we gonna take decisions if we are not getting the feedback and knowing to where our customer is going, what they expect, and what happened in the moment that something make a huge gap in the forecast, to remove and continue taking decisions in our negotiations with the supplier base. Otherwise, we are bringing the data, we are having negotiation in front of our suppliers without any knowledge previous with our OEM to know that it was just like a specific market attendance that they meet for a specific car brand, or if this is a new expectation in terms of growth of the volume. Because the resilience of our supply chain is not about to be reactive, as Brenda stated, or the flexibility that our OEM gonna have, is to be competitive and to move faster in this market.
Speed and being competitive.
Speed.
Speed. Let's talk a little bit about regionalization, risk, and compliance. I mentioned, as I prefaced earlier, about what the Chinese manufacturers are doing just in innovation. But just in the last 2 weeks, as many of our companies are looking at foreign trade issues and tariffs, China has pushed back. China now has what they call the Chinese state government policy 834 and 835. So now for suppliers that are companies that are doing business in China, if you're trying to comply with the Uyghur Forced Labor Protection Act and traceability, you can't just stop doing business in China because they are now saying that that's a national security threat. And now you are going to be penalized and in some cases for your colleagues that are in China could face imprisonment. So as suppliers are thinking about how they are going to navigate, again, the trade pressures, the USMCA renegotiation, regionalization, my question to all of you is, how should suppliers rethink their footprint given regionalization that is occurring in the negotiation and the trade pressures that are seeming to be changing every week recently? So, Paulina, I'm going to start with you. Give me your input. What do you see right now? How should they rethink regionalization?
Well, it's about the diversity and to not over-concentrate the commodity management. It's a key fact, at least after semiconductor crisis and another commodities, such like the metals, that has a differentiation in terms of the localization of these suppliers. So what happened now with the footprint, it's to not over-concentrate and to be a strategy about which partners can help us to distribute our products, our primarily resource, in order to be more competitive on where we are. If we are moving for a specific commodity or a specific region or country, really gonna pay off the way on the decisions that we are taking. For example, there is a good case from Apple. I'm gonna take off a little bit from the automotive, but at the end it's an application in the cars. So they are staying focused on what they produce, but they are becoming stronger about what they realize with the non-touching actives and assets that they have. Why? Because they produce and they are not being competitive with the supplier that assembly the iPhone, okay? They're staying focused on what the customer needs when you are going to a store, which is the customer experience, right? You are not going where your iPhone was assembled. You are going to the experience. And this is in the same way that we are taking care about for the final product, our OEMs. The experience when you are sitting in the car, having several adapts, in terms of the screen, sounds, for sure, Harman. So how we are staying focused in this footprint. It's not only about where our factories are. It's to where we are moving our strategy to the customer experience, to the customer response. If we have defects, how we are making more faster our transportation method to go to our customer location. So this footprint need to be analyzed to the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, staying focused not only on the products. And what happened with the product that we produce in the cars. It will be the final way that we can understand that this footprint matters, not only for our production assembly lines, for our experience and from where are coming our primarily resource. It will be the success way because as you mentioned, China is moving faster and faster. They are now so many years ahead our North America market. Fine. They need to keep producing, but that not means that we are not competitive. There is a different path that we can engage them to keep growing. Our inventory strategies, our warehousing, everything that makes us more profitable and what we do. Because keep in mind as well, the market is moving, but the people is moving. How many times the people stay in the same job role? How many years? We need to stay focused as well to keep and return the knowledge, not in the people, in the culture, how we walk through about it. And in that way, I think that we'll be closer to make more successful.
Great response. Brenda, same question, and from your vantage point, how should suppliers rethink their footprint given regionalization and trade pressures?
Yes, I agree with my colleague, and I would like to add also that in my experience, what is working, we need to reframe the concept of footprint and where is indicated in the supply chain that they need to start thinking about it and how will be managed. And also, that will happen when it's part of the customer-specific requirements. So in our system, in our requirements, we add this concept and we request to the suppliers to create innovative strategies to reduce this footprint. Because we are taking care about quality, yes, customer satisfaction, but also by the environmental sustainability. We, as leaders, we are leading our organizations. We have our circles of influence. I always think about that. Please think about in your, maybe your worry circle, I'm worried about this, but I don't have too much influence. But think about in your organization, what is your influence? How can you contribute to make this lower with better rates, with better results? And that's what we are requesting in our quality management, supplier quality, and we review. We go and see in place what the supplier is performing, something new, and it's part of the decision if this supplier is going to be part of my new project or not. Okay, it's a decision. When we create, for example, the sourcing decision sheet or the new supplier introduction process, footprint and this concept is included. Additional, we need to think about we are global. We have different requirements in each country. So we need people with the right competence to understand these requirements and show evidence that they know this standard, this technical requirement or legal requirement, and how do they manage this. But this is a double task. It means like us, like customers, we review that they have the strategy and the execution, and the supplier that they have the local team, because technology or legal requirement is not the gap. The gap is the people. And sorry to say that maybe it's hard, but it's a fact that if we don't have the right competence in our teams, maybe we have the willingness. I'm here, I want to do this perfectly. I have all the days working, but I don't have the competence. I don't have the information. Where do I need to look for this? And maybe we have previous lessons because we are a worldwide companies, okay? So we can share best lessons or sharing the best practices in footprint. So maybe it's a new topic, but it's something that we can rely on the other sisters' plans or another facility, or even with the customer. I can say, okay, you are asking me for this requirement. How do you do that? Help me to improve. Help me to grow together, because now we are partners. It's not the relationships total separate. So Aumovio is working in those kind of strategies, and for your information, is very value added because we have our cooperative in Germany, And we have the Germany legal approach, we have the North America, we have the Asia colleagues. So we have a strong team with the right capabilities. So that's my recommendation to follow and look at your organization. What is your interest parts? What is your content of the organization? Where you are located? How many facilities? What is the product? What is the legal requirement? And create that strategy to start reframing this kind of full prints decisions. Because everything is a plan and then into actions to get the results. So we are very results approach. Everything that we do every day, to be all together here is because we have our results to harmonize, to share various practices, because tomorrow when you go to the office, you will say, I have this learning insight, so this is something that I can implement. Or maybe my colleague told me, where can I find it? So that's the reason that we are here all together from our perspective and to take decisions and actions and results, everybody harmonized with the footprint concept.
Great response. Miguel, I'm going to add a little additional caveat to this.
Yeah.
If there's a business owner that's
The
out
answer
here,
from my colleagues is very good. So
very good.
just let me add something regarding the OEM because the supplier's point of view is very good. So, but we need to recognize that the condition for fiscal year 26 will be more demanding than we are now so far. So, to navigate with this realistic condition, we know very well that USMCA has a very challenging environment. But during the whole day today was discussed about this. For that reason, I don't focus on that. But I'm going to focus in the regionalization. So we need to align with the strategy OEMs. In our case, Green Nissan, as I commented. But we need to have 3 key drivers like this nearshoring. The nearshoring was commented during today several times. But the nearshoring for Nissan is how we can collaborate with suppliers. As I commented, we are able to co-invest. We are able to share in the capacity for the plastic injection machine, for the press of steel, the engine casting, some process that we have a very key process on inside. We can share the capacity for the supplier in order to improve the nearshoring. So then the second one is regional sourcing. The regional sourcing, now Nissan is working to offer some relocations for the supplier here. And the last one is the reduced dependency of the high-risk region. So now for Asia, you know that we have some high-risk region, forced labor or something, but we need to be ready to face the risk condition to her. How resilient and more flexible and speed.
You said a key word that I want to just talk about a little bit. You said Nissan is willing where it makes sense to co-invest. So as the OEM, from your vantage point, as maybe business owners are here, and as we talk about collaboration and we talk about nearshoring and regionalization, how can they possibly look to come together and then come together to Nissan and say, hey, we have a couple of talents, capabilities that we might want to work together, a couple of suppliers, to maybe have Nissan co-invest in them together to collaborate to provide a better solution. How would you respond? How would you review or look at something like that with them?
Oh, yeah, so it's very difficult, but we have technical resources, we have an experienced resources. We can collaborate with some suppliers to offer some support, like technical support, co-investment, and geopolitical expert for this. So for that reason, we can collaborate. We are openness. So our vision for Nissan and Nissan was how we can do resilience and openness. We need to be openness for this. We can offer several that supplier can request.
That's good. I hope you guys are paying attention that there is some co-investment opportunities out there and technical assistance, number one, but you have to bring the right opportunity to the table for that to happen. Let's talk a little bit right now just about, we know that things are changing. Compliance seems to be increasing with forced labor regulations, carbon footprint. We've talked about transparency. But how much do you think compliance will increase and will be different in 2030 than what companies are seeing today in 2026? Paulina?
Well, it's an interesting point because sometimes we are just seeing the short term, but in 1 second, perhaps we're gonna be in that 230. So 2030, sorry. Well, now at least in terms of supply chain, what happened with compliance, it's in two ways. The first one is to know why we are having this business path. And second, around our business, what is happening? Because there are coming different requirements from the OEM, from different certs that we need to achieve, such like AT&F. Customers are asking for more sustainability impact, eco-friendly packaging, right? So it's the way that we should innovate our process, starting from the safety, the quality, delivery, people, because it's knowledge retention is a big challenge with the new generations that they do not expect the same as most of you are expecting now, right? And for sure, the cost. In the past, the driver to take decisions to assign the business to the supplier was cost efficiency, mainly, right? And delivery terms. How many rejects they have, no? The PPMs. But now, what expecting the 2030 should be more flexibility in all our supply chain. To become more strategy about the collaboration or our stronger fact, for example, if we are producing a specific components or we are delivering assemblies, no, to the doors, to the steer wheels, right? And in that way, we can be competitive as a team, as an ecosystem, not in a single way. We do not expect single contributors. There is no way, because we need each other. We need the primary resource because it's the origin of the supply chain, right? Where pandemic starts? With the semiconductors. And several markets has been crashed, not only the automotive. For sure, we were lucky to survive because we have several initiatives in terms of the continuous improvement. We have made several copies and success copies for a structure in terms of continuous improvement. Kaizen, Gembas, everything that helps us to keep driving cost efficiency, labor efficiency. But this is a collaboration path where we can move forward and offer variety, diversity, because now there are several brands and tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers are becoming more stronger. So at least for us as a tier 1 is the time to go back and check what is happening in our primary resource and grab them with strong strategies to allow them to keep the competitive that they have in our products, but have a true collaboration with the sustainability effect to help to the environment, to help to the people, to grow and reduce the waste in every single way, not wasting the time. Because we already talked about the data transparency. Yeah, for sure. We can have several data, but what we are exactly doing with the data that we have? No? How many of all of us, we can raise a hand and say, I know if I eat healthy, I become a healthier person. We have the data. How many of you really do something with this data? And I think that is the challenge that we expect with the suppliers in the long term, that with the data that they have, they can help us each other, but to start doing something today.
Are you talking about me over here talking about something? We got the data about eating right?
No, just I'm using an example because at the end, it's a fact. You can scroll
right.
down in seconds. You have several information. But what you gonna do with this?
What we
Perhaps
gonna do with
next
it?
time I will use like another example. I don't know, TikTok or something.
No. Just kidding with you. But Brenda, the same question. Where do you
Okay.
see some of the changes that are going to be
Yeah.
different in compliance?
Very good question. The answer is yes. We are increasing requirements. That is a fact. I want to be very honest, very open. It's an open conversation altogether. And the reason why is to be preventive and be prepared for those requirements. And for example, I will talk about, we have our supplier quality manual. We require IATF certification, ISO, for environmental, 14 and 1. We have also the BDI 6.3 requirements, at least 98% A. It's a requirement to be part of the supply chain with us. Additional to that, into the quality management system is required the predictive approach and risk management, okay? So in the past, maybe we can make a question like, can you meet this requirement? It was a question to a new supplier or potential supplier. But now we have a different question to them. Instead of saying, can you meet this requirement? Is, do you have the capability or the system, the resources, the infrastructure, the financial support, is everything together to ensure that we can work together in a long term, not only for one project, because we are looking for sustainability concept and also taking care about quality. For sure, we are on time delivery, quantity, right price, no more cost. But also we are talking about people. We want to enhance the way of our employees are working in the factories. We want to ensure the environmental topics. We want to be safe, no accidents in the plants. So those requirements are increasing. So we are looking for more mature systems. For example, if we have a relationship or supplier, customer, we request more risk management approach in a specific launch process. So yes, the question is yes, we need to be very, also technology. Remember that we need to include the technology, how we can react more immediately in a situation, and also to build the trust between customer and supplier, because it's better to raise your hand and say, there is a suspect material ongoing, and just ring the supplier and the customer and say, I will be there. I will make a 100% inspection on site, but I will protect you. So we build a relationship, and that's what we are looking for. Those kind of suppliers that, additional from my requirements, they can promote more quality control. Not only in the plan, the control, and what do we have at the very beginning. Every single year, we need to improve the performance of the project. So yes, the answer is yes, and we'll talk about the legal topics. It depends where we are and where are our customers. And also, we are looking to be smart and make some relocalization of suppliers in case that it's possible to save money and time and the footprint and all the environmental topics. But be prepared, be enthusiastic. I think it's a new challenge because continuous improvement is part of our daily life in quality. So I really like to promote this mindset and be part of that, join us and be part of these kind of solutions and better results. So be ready. Be ready with that improvements and new requirements.
Well, Miguel, everybody's going to be responding to you because Nissan's going to be the one that's going to be making them look at the requirements. So from an OEM's perspective, what do you see coming down the pike in the next 5 years? Will there be more requirements that you're going to, as the tier ones, they think that you're going to have more requirements for them? Will you? And what does that landscape look like from the OEM's perspective?
Oh, yeah. So I totally agree with him. But let me remark that for 2030, the compliance will not be a differentiator. Will no longer be differentiator. So because this is a requirement for the OEMs, the carbon footprint, the regulation for the forced labor, and supplier transparency, are embedded in the OEM's requirement. But the real differentiator is how will supplier can complain this. Supplier need to do the robust strategic capability plan. How we can they accomplish the compliance for these three factors. To be honest, this is the functional traceability for beyond tier one. It's not only for the not tier plus one, tier T to tier two. No. The OEMs are requesting now and for the next 5 years how we can be interconnected with the tier N suppliers. It's very important because we need to have a very close communication, not only for the tier one, it's for the tier N supplier. As I commented in my first comment, the main contributors for the quality issues are the tier N suppliers. So we need to robust the standardization, all the standards that we have in the AIAG. Thank you.
And we talked a little bit earlier, I know that we say compliance, but a lot of times the compliance, particularly in the way the information is gathered, creates traceability in the supply chain. And I know I was sharing with Miguel and with the leadership team at Nissan a couple of weeks ago, they shared that they were able to reach down and communicate to a supplier, a tier N supplier, and let them know that they were going to be impacted by this Iran conflict. They were not aware that they would be impacted because some of the goods and services that they would possibly are coming from Iran. And so, again, the compliance and the traceability is only going to assist to make the supply chain stronger versus it being perceived as just another headache of something somebody's asking me to do. So our time is running by really quick, and so I really want to wrap up with really you guys answer one question for this audience. If you were advising a tier 2 or tier 3, because we've heard a lot about tier Ns, particularly from OEM, but if you were trying to advise a tier 2 or tier 3 supplier today, what is the one capability that you would tell them that they must start building immediately? And let's start off, Miguel, I want to let, as OEM, what's that one thing you would tell them to start building right now?
Okay, so immediately, yeah, let me rephrase, immediately. Now, our tier 2 or tier 3 are facing several challenges. They have a high exposure to disruption and limited scale for the tier N OEM communication. So immediately we need to work in the robust quality and risk management system, because now for M's we need to reinforce it. Everything that we have any change, maybe we can conduct it's a minimal change, but all changes that we have from tier N supplier, tier 2 supplier represents high impact for us. So we cannot minimize any change that we have in order to prepare or to build some robust quality plan. As Nissan, now we are changing or we are evolving not only qualification of the supplier for scorecard performance, because this is like a performance. So if I advisor, so now we need to request what is my performance and what is how is aligned with my indicators. So for that reason, we are working to communicate previously to qualification of the scorecard. This is in order, we are working to announce this at least 1 month previously in order to supplier can have some information before the qualification. So if I were advisor, it's a good job, but as immediately we need to work in the robust quality plan and risk management.
Brenda, the same question.
I agree with this OEM approach, but immediately I will think about people, because people is one of our main assets in the company and the competence. We need to redefine the competence of the roles because maybe it's a traditional way to work. If the system change, the tasks from each specific role in the organization must change and must be updated immediately, okay? And to be close to the systems that we have communication with the customer, the OEMs directly, and how to manage this networking, because we have several systems in place to communicate delivering, quality scores, the launch of the projects, everything. For example, we use Supply On, and that's immediately because we have the tool. I remember, please keep this on mind, like a learning insight is like, the gap is not the technology. Maybe we have the resource, we don't have the right people to run the process. So that's something immediately that we need to change, innovate. Don't be afraid to change the way to work. Be afraid to stay the same approach like in the past, and your customer is with the change, with a new technology, and you're still working in the past, you know? So for me, that's my recommendation. Think about your organization chart, your top management. Take this point to take immediately in action. Second, I will recommend to think about the product life cycle, you know, to understand the concept, to implement properly. Because we have observed in the supply chain with our suppliers that this concept is not so really clear, not even at the very beginning of the project, and we start facing problems when we have the SOP and after the run rates and everything. So we continue with some life cycle concept in place, properly documented and implemented. Another is the preventive approach. Risk is already mentioned several times. And risk management. We need to think about in preventive approach. What can happen in the future with the new factors that we are leading? What is the potential failure that we can face in our system? Not only the product, also in the system and the technology, and also losing, for example, there is a specific knowledge of the company that it's something that we need to recover, maybe with videos, audios, visual aids, whatever we have in place, but we need to have this knowledge from the organization documented and immediately to apply. And well, I mentioned the system and the capability of the people. That's my recommendation.
And Paulina, we're going to close up with you.
Let me recap. Well, to granulate the standards. Brenda has mentioned that we do not feel afraid to do something different. And when we standardize our process, we assume that everything is the same, starting from our customers, no? We standardize the way that we deliver products to our customers. And they do not, because Nissan and another OEMs goes to a different way, has different priorities, different focus. There are brands that customize your car. There are brands that do not customize and put the standards, and that is the option that you have, perhaps changing the colors, interiors on the cars, but that's it, right? So bring your standards and do granular and redesign the basics. Let me share a short experience in a production line. We went to a Gemba walk, trying to figure out how we can build faster to increase our cycle time. And guess what? No one identified that all the workstations were made assuming that all people write with the right hand. And guess what? There are people into the production lines that write with the left hand. So for sure, if we are not granulating the standards, innovating, redesigning the way that we prove to our customer that we are capable to reach the standard, we cannot move to the next level in our organizations. Because all these little improvements, we can populate in a stronger way to communicate, to accumulate and communicate in the company that things can still improving. So redesign the standards, granulate in the way that you can identify potential facts that makes the difference in your process. If you start this, you're gonna become more stronger with your mindset, with the people, to engage them, to start doing the same with the customers, asking from where comes the fluctuations on the demand. How many of our teams in the supply chain knows how the market goes? But as a leaders, how often we share to them the insights of the market? We provide the website insights to where is going Nissan in the sales volume with the redesign of their famous cars, the Versa, one of them. No one, or perhaps a few one of you. So redesign the way that you approach and engage to the people to do the things better. Starting to think if the place that you assign to them is the right one, to allow them to do the things in the right manner, based on their needs. And then you're gonna open the door and you will be able to go to the customer and have the way to identify what they need.
No, that is fantastic comments. Again, as we wrap up, just a couple key points that I think I heard. That number one, I can't ignore the fact that if you have the right solution, that, and then it's not just Nissan. I think OEMs are willing to make some sort of co-investment in you. Opportunities for collaboration. Right now, speed and competitiveness are key things that this industry needs from you. And so, and again, I think you heard about traceability, risk management, investing in training. AIAG, one of the things that we do, particularly here in Mexico around with particular quality, is work with our partner Plexus. Many of the things that this panel talked about in regards to quality, that training opportunities are available, just reach out to us. Each one of the colleagues that are here serve on the AIAG Mexico Quality Advisory Committee. So if you are a Tier 2, Tier 3 company and you have, again, quality experts who would like to be on that committee, we would welcome you to be at the table because, again, that committee's focus is to understand the pain points that are impacting the supply chain in Mexico specifically, and then trying to work for solutions that can possibly improve the overall efficiencies and process. And so, again, one of the things that we want to say to you, I say right now, is you cannot be reactive. I put on an event every year, about 8 years right now. We focus on future mobility, EV and battery. It's being held August the 20th in Huntsville, Alabama. We are very fortunate to have the new Chief Procurement Officer of Nissan, Steve Jernigan, that will be there, the senior group VP of Toyota, many national speakers. But they're going to be talking about some of the cutting-edge technology that you should be looking at, in addition to national speakers. But we're also going to have some folks from the Department of Defense, that they call the Department of War, that are talking about some of the investments that are being made right now in drones, that are being made into data centers, because right now there was a tremendous investment that was made, of course, in EV batteries. Those batteries are in inventory. Something has to be done with them. Those are opportunities. And so what I would recommend that you need to be proactive. If you're going to wait to see how things are going to turn out, by the time things speed up, you're going to be already too late to respond. So give a hand to our esteemed panel. Again, we are here because of them. They are key members of AIAG. They are leading voices for what happened. I just want to thank them for taking the time to come here to answer the questions that we posed to them today. So again, we're going to wrap up. Catch them real quickly. They're going to be here probably another 5 minutes, and then they're headed to dinner in 30 minutes. So again, but they'll be here for a few minutes for any individual questions you might have. And again, thank you for having us.